MUFC, this is Ruby in the house, and it means it's Monday. We have a brand new podcast. What a week of football we had, and what a week of football we are gonna have. And you know what? I'm gonna pause this music. I love this music. The reason why, because we're gonna talk about Manchester United. Look, I have very special guests waiting in the background. I'm gonna bring them in one by one. I have Phil Standish in the house. Phil.
Good evening, everybody. How are we all doing? We okay? Absolutely fantastic weekend. Still buzzing from the Barcelona game last week, and then followed on to the Leicester game. So I have been told, though, I do need to keep my voice down because apparently I got a little bit too excited the other week in a podcast and my son couldn't sleep. So I'm going to try and not get too excited tonight when we start to talk about United again. My wife's stood in front of me shaking her head in disapproval. So yeah. Got me Bruno Fernandes shirt on tonight.
Oh, you Bruno.
Come on, Bruno.
You usually have your Sancho t-shirt.
Me Sancho, yeah, but I didn't really think that I don't wash my clothes, so I thought I'd go with a different option. So
listen, I talk in a bit, right? Because
yes, mate.
Yeah. So so in a way, all the way from USA, we have a special guest that's coming in. He's been sitting on the bench, but he's ready to join the team, the first starting 11 for the first time. Without further ado, Mr. Phil Brown. Sir, how are you, sir?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me on. Sorry, I'm outside.
No worries. Whereabouts in US are you right now?
I am in Orange County, just outside Los Angeles.
Enjoying your brew, I guess. Listen, Phil, we're going to talk about a lot of things today. Obviously, we're going to talk football, Manchester United, Manchester United. A lot of people will wonder what's going on with the takeover. Personally, I'm getting a little bit bored about that. So, obviously, we're here to talk football. Guys, welcome to the stream one by one. Let's do this. Are we ready to rumble? Let's get ready to rumble. Oh, sorry, I'm doing the air guitar as usual. Guys, Monday, welcome. Guys, talk to me, Phil. We have double Phil in the house here, so who wants to go first? Leicester, 3-0. Come on, talk to us. Phil Brown from USA. How did we beat Leicester?
I thought in the first half there were some similarities in that Leicester game that we saw in the Barcelona game, in the sense that Leicester had about a 20-minute spell where they put United under a lot of pressure, and Barcelona did that too. And I was really worried in the first half against Barcelona that was going to be the pattern of the game. I thought Ten Hag adjusted that tactically really, really well. He did exactly the same the other night against Leicester. And I think that's one of the things that impresses me about Ten Hag is every time he has a problem in front of him, he comes up with a solution that fixes the problem. He made tactical adjustments, brought Garnacho off because I thought United were getting hurt down the left-hand side. He fixed that problem immediately. He has the most informed striker in Europe, but not just his form for me. It's the fact that he's been keeping him injury-free, which is the first time we've seen that from Rashford in a long, long time. That was going to be really important. We've had to be thin up front.
Yeah.
So I think really tactically he made the right adjustments. Played Sancho centrally, where I think he's best at. Another central goal against Leicester. He scored against Leicester from the central position at Leicester. And I think that's where he's best. And I think very encouraging to see Sancho coming back into form at the right time.
Phil, Sancho is your man.
Yeah,
you agree?
absolutely.
I mean, we got to see Sancho playing as number 10. I've been saying about this. I've been singing this hymn sheets for a year. I want to see Sancho as number 10. We got to see that. Talk to me, Phil.
We did, mate. Yeah. What I've liked about, as Phil was just saying then about Ten Hag, is the adjustments he's making, the changes. But what we've seen over the last 3 or 4 games, he's made several swaps with Garnacho and Sancho. bring one on, take it off, start one, start the other sort of thing. And he seems to be doing. It must be very difficult because Garnacho is like this kid who's had great season so far, been fantastic for us, got us some important points, made some massive difference in some big games. And suddenly Sancho's on his urgent, and we're desperate to get him back in as well. And now he has got his first problem of a bit of a juggling act. He's got Anthony who's on his way back. He's got Sancho. It's a nice problem to have. So Alex Ferguson had it for years where we had two in every position. And now we are getting to that position where we believe that we've got a team and not as in a full squad, not just a team, but he's building something special. So Garnacho, I think he's still making a couple of learning mistakes where he should be moments when he should be passing it instead of shooting, trying to get the glory, because what he'll realise is the glory comes from the team winning, not just from him. When you look at Weghorst at the moment, I know he's getting a lot of abuse in social media, but at the same time, when you look at his performance, what he's bringing, he's only got one goal, but his movement, he's knocking the ball on, his passing, everything is fantastic. Sancho playing in the number 10 role, absolutely brilliant. His movement was absolutely immense off the ball the other day. His movement, his passing, and that goal was just epitomised his half. Absolutely fantastic, well deserved, and playing with a smile on his face as well. That's what's been missing, not from Sancho, but from the team, and we're seeing that this season. We're seeing everyone playing with joy, and Ten Hag's got them doing that.
That's why I decided to call this podcast Mental United in a way, because it's all about the mental agility, what Alex Ten Hag has instilled. If we look at where we were last season, when everyone was down tooling, guys, we all remember this PTSD, right? Players were giving up, Oli was kind of getting booted out. We had Ragnick in, but players, they were not mentally ready, right? So what we've seen from Christmas to now, we haven't lost many games, and Rashford is on fire. So better, I saying, Manchester Fire Department, hold your fire trucks off, let the guy burn, he's on fire, right? On form. But this means something. This is mental agility, right? But what I like is about this system, everyone knows their place in the system. Everyone plays for each other, right? Barring that we have a lot of injuries and suspension, looking at who's coming back now, less minus Eriksen, all of a sudden our squad looks pretty good as rotation. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But in the first half, of course, I was a little bit worried first. We were kind of in control, but then we kind of looked a little bit leggy. But that has sort of, and traveling and mentally, coming back from Barcelona to recover, to eat, to sleep. Of course, they looked a little bit leggy. But I think after that, 15 minutes out when we scored the first goal, I mean, they were kind of dominated us in the middle of the park, and we looked a little bit weak on the right-hand side with Dalot, a little bit rusty. But I think Dalot found his feet again, and he missed that sitter with his left foot. Yeah. But in general, the second half is probably the best display I've seen Manchester United play for a very, very long time. I mean, I don't know what you guys think. I mean, what did you take on the second half? It felt like watching a Sir Alex Ferguson, the old swagger, swagger football.
Yeah, there's the confidence in United. And I think one of the other things that was important was Victor Lindelof came into the squad. Were able to rest Varane. Ahead of obviously the Barcelona game, Lindelof I thought was excellent. I thought De Gea was excellent. People want to focus on the negative side of David De Gea's game, but he has been worth at least 9 points at the end of the season. If Leicester score in the first half 1 or 2, it's a whole different game. So the fact that he kept that clean sheet gave United something to build off, where one goal could change the game. Like we said about the tactics really, really changed that game also. I remember when United played Leicester last season, and Brendan Rodgers said United's midfield was really, really easy to overrun. And then United played Liverpool in the following game, and they did exactly the same thing. Where United's midfield wasn't pressing, and it was a really easy midfield to play through. That didn't happen this time. I think you see the adjustments in United's game and how they win games. They know how to win games in more than one way. It's not just counter-attacking football, hoping somebody makes a mistake. They know how to dominate possession. And not, I mean, they're fixing things that we were concerned about earlier in the season. When we're about getting that second goal, which has always been really important, but that kills the games. They get the second goal. You talked about Garnacho's decision making. This was the problem for Rashford up until last season. Rashford's 25. His decision making wasn't great. It was one of his biggest weaknesses. When Rashford's really fixed that this season, so we have to be patient with Garnacho. But I thought that second half was so convincing that United are the most informed team in the Premier League right now, and Leicester had won their last 2 games. So I think it was an exceptional. The other thing I like about Ten Hag is he looks at victories like they're defeats, and he doesn't get carried away by the result. He still remembers the negative things that needed to be put right in the game, and I love his commentary after games.
Yeah,
I did too.
I think one of the things. Sorry, go on, mate.
I did too. Like, coming back what you said, Phil, about his commentary after the game. He strikes me as a man that is never satisfied, even if it's 3-0, 4-0. I mean, I love the way he said, like, first half was shocking because they didn't follow the rules and the principles, right? They said they knew. I didn't have to have this pep talk. They knew exactly what I was feeling. And basically they came out fresh in the second half. He did a couple of tweaks. What do you say? He put in Sancho in the middle, Bruno to the right. And that dynamic, like the tiki-taka football in between, the telepathy, was a game changer. Phil, talk to me.
Yeah, I think something we need to remember as well. I mean, Phil's touched on it already. Leicester's previous results were they won them both with 4 goals, and one of those was against Spurs. And I know Spurs are not like exactly screaming at the moment. They're having on a bit of a poor run of form. I know they got a 2-0 win at the weekend, but before that, they were on a bit of a poor run. But Leicester's still knocking 4 past them, and in that game against Spurs, it could have been 5 or 6. So they were on a real confidence run themselves. So for us to keep them out, and as Phil's already said, De Gea's saves were absolutely outstanding. We know his distribution is an issue. There's no doubt about that whatsoever, And Ten Hag start trying to work on that by changing the way that we play out from the back. And we know it's caught us out as well. It's cost us goals trying to play out from the back. But you can see in the development each week to week that they're trying to find a different way to play out from the back. Sometimes it does go long out of his hands. He boots it downfield. But playing out from the back is working. It would get in there now with it. But his saves, that one where he just dug it out was not, I know some people would compare it to the bank save sort of thing, but it was immense. And without De Gea in that first half, we would have lost that. It would have changed it completely. We'd have had a different mindset. We may or may not have come back like the Leeds game. I don't know. But going into Barcelona, we needed to have that belief. And I think it's good to get these little setbacks where we're rocked and knocked and we need a goalkeeper to make his changes, because going up against Barcelona, we can't think it's won because we've got, and Ten Hag won't let them have that attitude about it at all. So, yeah, absolutely buzzing off the result. It was a well-deserved result in the end. And it was just it was a shame that we had to take a few knocks and bruises before we got into gear.
Yeah, but, I mean, in the midst of everything, the man of the match, according to my opinion, was Bruno. But then afterwards, I tweeted and I thought about, wait a minute, David De Gea, what a keeper, right? What saves he did, and David De Gea has been getting so much sticks in the socials, and I don't get it, because at the end of the day, okay, his distribution has improved. But a goalie's job is to stop the ball to go into the net. And David De Gea delivers game after game, game after game. I mean, I think it was a club record right now. He broke Peter Schmeichel's record for keeping consecutive clean sheets, right?
He's equaled it, hasn't he? Yeah, he's equaled it.
I think also, lads, what you have to realize is, if you remember after Brentford, one of the things that really stood out for Ten Hag was the lack of fitness in that team. And this has been a problem under Solskjaer, and this was a problem under Mourinho. When Solskjaer came in, he said he wanted United to be the fittest team in the league.
He did.
I talked about Mourinho, and Mourinho talked about United's fitness not being right. That, to me, is unforgivable, because the one thing you should expect from a professional footballer is professionalism, that they're in a physical condition to do their job. Everything else is forgivable. If you don't play well, that's forgivable. If you don't have a great game, that's forgivable. Make mistakes, that's forgivable. But not being not fit. One of the things that we pointed out earlier was the fitness of Rashford and the consistency of people like Varane and other players that have retained fitness, so the mental and physical rehabilitation of those players. And Ten Hag understands before you can perform anywhere, the relationship with yourself, mentally and physically, has to be right. So, how you respect your body, how you respect yourself, your mental health has to be right. That's 85% of mental health is your relationship with yourself and your relationship with others. I think Ten Hag has done a brilliant job fixing that. We always say the teams resemble their managers. Well, if teams resemble their managers, we got one of the best managers in modern football. I just want to make one other point on this, because if you remember, we're not that far away from people talking about you needed United DNA to manage the football club. You needed to know the club. You needed to get the club. So Matt Busby played for Liverpool and City. He didn't have United DNA. Ferguson had never set foot inside the football club before he moved. And Ten Hag isn't from, as much as I loved Ollie, he didn't have to play for United. He didn't have to get the club in that sense. But Ten Hag is a Manchester United manager. And I'll tell you something, like, when you look at United's financial situation, we couldn't have afforded to get it wrong. If Ten Hag had got it wrong in the summer, Manchester United would be in one hell of a position. The fact that he got it right at the last chance for this football club, we owe that man so much.
Thank God. 100% agree with you. Absolutely. Sort of kind of to wrap it up, Phil, I mean, I think we have a few comments. Could you want to go over the viewers' comments, like if they have any questions?
Yeah, I'm just trying to look through any questions to do with the actual game from last week. There hasn't been any on the on the previous games. There's some coming up on some questions on the Barca at the moment.
She's on,
so we can kind of get to those in a short bit. Ayush is mentioning the starting 11. But one thing he has said is, if I get Felix's phone number, I'll convince him to join United. Thanks, Ayush. Now he's got his red card out of the way. That's always good. And then, he's just asking about the Barca, the Qatari ownership. Hey, Mick, any Qatari ownership update? We said we'll touch upon that in a very short while. And then he starts going on about Barcelona, which we can get to in a short while towards the end of the show. But he has mentioned this. We can lift a trophy in 6 days, Reds, praying for the team. Absolutely. What a feeling that's going to be.
Yeah, Sunday.
We've got to get through Barcelona first. Get through Barcelona, get through that game, get a good result out of it, move on to the next round of the Europa, and then we can give our full focus to that game.
Okay, so we just switch over straight away, because I think a lot of people want to know. I mean, it's been spinning around. I mean, we've been covering it a lot. Both me and Phil Brown and yourself, and I mean, we are in a soft deadline, and there's been two. As far as we know, today I think it was the third that came out public. We know it's been Qatari bid. We know it's been Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And what really came out yet today was that there's two separate bill. Phil Brown, and I call you Phil. I don't know. I just call Standish. One was 100% ownership outright without any debts, and this is kind of appealing to the fans. The other one came out that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is only looking to buy out the Glazers shares, which is 69%, and the remaining stays within majority of shareholders. There was also reports coming out that he's going to be bankrolling, in terms of he's going to take the debt on Ineos. But from a logic and sense, okay, you can take on that money to your company, but if you look at the return on investment, that money has to be retracted sooner or later back into the company. I mean, there's always been a double process, according to my understanding, is that ideally they came out to look for strategic investments. We saw that with the Apollo Group, that they were acquiring 1 billion to buy out their siblings, and today it came out with what's it called, the consultancy group, the hedge fund, Elliott Hedge, which caused a little bit of a meltdown, that they're willing to sort of help the Glazers. But do you think, Phil, that last kind of what we are fearing could be plausible, or do you think that their back's against the wall already, like, in terms of they run the finances to the ground already?
I think it's hard for the Glazers to put this genie back in the bottle. Once they come out and say the club is for sale, it's certainly not impossible that they would stay. There's obviously divisions within the family. Most of the siblings want to sell it. Joel and Abby don't. if they could find a plausible way to stay at United, they would. They're not probably that concerned about fan revolt. They've dealt with it before. I assume they don't think it will die down if United win trophies, which I'm not sure it would this time, because United fans have had the carrot dangled in front of them of new ownership. Well, what I would say is a couple of things. The Rain Group only have a remit, only have a mandate to sell the 69% shares of the Glazers. The rest will have to be purchased separately. So when Jim Ratcliffe's talking about buying the majority shares, that's from Rain Group, that's what they're selling. I mean, the Glazers have been selling off parts of United for years. So I have problems with Jim's bid. It doesn't clear all the debt. The logic of him, in some sense, there's similarities between Elon Musk and Tesla, with him borrowing a lot of money to buy Twitter, and then it affecting the stock of Tesla as a result. I'm not sure how that would affect Ineos with Jim Ratcliffe taking on debt to buy Manchester United. I mean, truthfully, it's massively inflated in terms of its value. It's a £2.5–3 billion football club. The Qataris, when the Red Knights wanted to buy United back in 2012, I think it was, the anchor to that was Qatari money. I have serious ethical issues with Qataris buying Manchester United. I have 2 daughters. Any regime that denies their agency, that denies their equivalency, that denies, that they're equivalent to a man is unacceptable to me. Completely unacceptable. Every single person that should buy Manchester United should be vetted to the core. You have to be careful if United gets sold to people like that. If you lose something, you never get back. I, like every other fan, want United to have investment. I want them to have a new stadium. I want them to refurbish Old Trafford. I want them to have the best players in the world, but not at any cost. Like my entertainment, and I love Manchester United in my soul, as most people do, but there comes a point where I'm not going to defend that, because human rights are a serious issue, and I don't want people owning football clubs like that. I've been a virulent critic of Manchester City. I've been a virulent critic of Newcastle. I've also been a virulent critic of the Catholic Church in Ireland for, they traffic children, they rape children, they bury children on unmarked graves. They've done a lot of nasty shit, and they rightfully should be called out on it. So there is no safe haven for me for people that do these types of things, regardless of who you are. I don't want to see that type of ownership at Manchester United. I think United have socially, I've always stood for something. I loved it when they opened Old Trafford for the homeless during the winter, during COVID when they supported social programs that Marcus Rashford did. I think that matters. And football is entertainment. It's not more important than human rights. And I think, but I don't think it will be stopped. I think eventually the Qataris will own it, because they'll go to a price point that others won't. I mean, the football club is not worth what the Glazers are trying to sell it for.
No, not at all.
No.
Honestly, lads, to me, I would find it very difficult to put a Man United shirt on my daughter's backs, knowing that the people that own the football club don't see them as the equivalent to a man.
What do you think on that, Phil? What do you think that, obviously there's thousands of fans out there who share a very similar view to that. What do you think the stance would be should it go ahead? Is it going to be like,
it's hard.
So
it's
when
hard.
someone returns to a club, they forgive them after a short while, sort of thing. After they get the first goal and they make the first buy, and the stadium looks nice and shiny again. And
here's the reality: being whether it's football, golf, boxing, Formula One, whatever, none of being a football fan or a sports fan is anything to do with logic. It's all to do with emotion, right? So United fans have been separating what goes on the field and off the field for 17 years, so I'm sure lots of people won't care. So I'm not telling anyone else to feel the way I feel. I'm not telling anyone else they should feel the way I feel. I just have my own principles. It would be something I would find very difficult to stomach. Now, I want the Glazers gone as much as anyone else. I would love them to be gone. And Jim Ratcliffe deserves scrutiny for his tax issues. He deserves scrutiny for his environmental issues. Absolutely. Right? And these are serious issues. I mean, I'm an environmentalist to a degree. We should be taking care of the earth. I'm concerned about, I live in a state that is devastated by wildfires, but devastated by drought. and I can see what's happening in front of my eyes, and the impact that has on me, on life. And I think that Jim Ratcliffe should, not be seen as some panacea, as some type of, savior to Manchester United, because that would be completely unfair. But I don't know, lads. To me, maybe there's a resignation that this is where sport is going in general, and we're probably powerless to stop it. But it's just, when obviously as you get older, your views change on things. When I was younger, I probably wouldn't have cared. Like a lot of United fans don't care right now. But when you age and you have more life experience and you have your own children, I can't imagine my daughters being denied their agency. I can't square that.
But at the end of the day, I hear everyone's thoughts, and we got to have this adult conversation sooner or later. When I think about it, 17 years under Glazers regime, and the fan base is now debating who is the better owner. I mean, are we kind of losing our ways into what the real thing? What we want is the Glazers to take the circus and the clowns out of town, and start fresh, like with somebody that is willing to invest, because our club, we know, is big enough to be sustainable, right?
But mate, you have to understand something. Sorry to interrupt you. There's a lot of people support the team, and there's a lot of people support the club, and they're two different things. And then those who support the club are people that support the values that Manchester United allegedly stand for. Those that support the team, that are only invested in where the team wins and who they buy. Those people don't identify with United in the same way. Phil and I are from a different generation, right? Where it wasn't about FIFA. It wasn't about, this was when I was a child growing up in Belfast, and Manchester United, I fell in love with as a young child, right? And as I became more socially and politically aware, their values appeal to me. There's a reason why I don't support certain football clubs that have propensity to racism, propensity to the National Front, or right wing, far right. I can't identify with that. So those values that Manchester United stood for me, they matter. I didn't mean to interrupt, sorry, but that matters to me. And there's people that support the team, there's people that support the club, and they're very different things.
Good shout. I mean, obviously, there's a white paper coming out from Prem. There's new regulations and I kept reading these different manifestos, and to me, when I read about Sir Jim Ratcliffe want to be the custodian of Manchester United, that means that he knows what's coming probably in the white papers, right? But why would you then go on a PR? Because knowing that it's an NDA and you have two clubs banging the drum announcing that they have actually bid. Well, I see it more on a, I'm more on the process, and I honor NDAs because I know what that is, right? And the ones that are keeping silence, this doesn't mean that there's only two bidders, right? We will know, because the soft deadline was just to submit, like, okay, this is how much I bid, with the supporting documentation that you're financial liable to actually bid for that paper. What we will see at the end is where all the cards will be turned, and then we as a fan base can scrutinize, and I think we should scrutinize every single bid.
Absolutely.
Right? But until then, I keep my powder dry, because I don't know who's going to come in.
There's definitely 100%. There is hidden bids.
100%.
I think probably between all three of us, we all know of somebody who's involved with it in one way or another. And obviously, none of us can speak of any of it, but we know that there are people out there who were involved with other bids that will compare to these, in terms of the value that they're putting forward to buy the club. And so, I think it's like we said. We've talked that there's enough going on in the media. Journalists are going to jump on everything, every single whim. We're going to dig up the history of things, and just because it sells, doesn't it? United sells, and it's the biggest story for many years, 17 years, in fact. About
this is the biggest story in world football.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
And I've been quite advocate to say,
like, as well.
I mean, what's been ticking me off? Sorry, gents. I've been looking at. I'm not going to mention the names. We're talking about the big sports outlets. We're talking about famous sports journalists, and showing the true colors at the end of the day. I get it, but I've been saying, where have you been for the past 17 years? Why haven't you written anything about the Glazers robbing the club? And now you're scooping up on this, like, comparing apples to beer, British bid here, Qatari bid here. You don't know anything because Rainy Group runs a tight ship. There's an NDA. So at the end of the day, we fan base are the ones that suffers, right? That's what I'm trying to say.
The NDA probably will apply to a lot of the private details that they wouldn't be allowed to disclose. I don't think the Glazers are happy with the wording of those bids because they're inherently critical of the running of the football club. And really, when it comes to journalism and their courage, it's really easy to mark when they found their tongue, and it was after Ferguson left the football club. When Ferguson was at United, maybe with the exception of Daniel Taylor and one or two others, nobody was criticising the Glazers because they were afraid of having access pulled. And let's have it right. Sir Alex Ferguson, as a result of his own avarice, defended the Glazers to protect his son. And obviously his issue with JP McManus and Magnier, who were asking the 99 questions, some of them related to his son and his agency. Ferguson didn't like that. Of course, was over the Rapid Gibraltar, and it was entirely for self-benefit that he backed the Glazers. Now, Ferguson came out and just recently criticised the Super League, which of course is an indirect criticism of the Glazers. But let's have it right here, lads. He is a major part of the reason why they're there, and you need only look at what happened to United after he left to know that when you look at the Glazer prospectus that they submitted to the banks when they were trying to get this leverage buyout, every single risk factor has been realised. We may not lose Alex Ferguson. We may lose Ferguson. We may not be able to attract the best players in the world. We may no longer qualify for the Champions League. That will affect revenue. All things that they listed in that prospectus have now come true. So if Ferguson had have stood up and took a moral stand, maybe it wouldn't have stopped it, but maybe it would have. Maybe the bank would have said there's too much risk here, right? And I think Ferguson owed that to United fans. United fans protested at Cheltenham against JP McManus and Magnier in support of him, right? Over this course, United fans backed him through many controversies. And by the way, him and David Gill were communicating to United through fans through back channels with Andy Watson, what have you, implying their support until it was no longer expedient to do so. So I just felt that, Ferguson was a genius football manager, not a perfect human being. Very few people are, to be fair. United fans protested when Rupert Murdoch tried to own the football club, and they went to the Monopolies and Mergers Commission. They rightfully went to the authorities and said this needs to be stopped, not just because of the obvious problem of the biggest broadcaster in the country owning the biggest football club in the country, which would have locked down TV rights and held them to ransom. Yeah, but because Rupert Murdoch is a pretty fucking despicable human being who's used the body politic in a lot of countries by disseminating bullshit over and over again, and justified illegal wars, justified genocide, justified the most abhorrent treatment of other human beings, immigrants, what have you. I mean, his news channel here just got subpoenaed in a lawsuit with Dominion. And what was revealed in that lawsuit is just absolutely disgraceful. Anyway, I don't mean to get up, but what I'm saying is it's entirely appropriate that United fans and journalists ask these questions about the legitimacy in the background. You're correct in saying that they weren't there in 2005. In fact, United fans were accused of being anti-American, even anti-Semitic in some sense. I will not level the same charge at them that they're Islamophobic or they're anti-Qatari, because they're asking the same questions United were asking 17 years ago about the background of the people behind a football club. Malcolm Glazer was not a nice man by any means. But it is entirely appropriate that these people are vetted. And even if journalists are late to the party, and it's encouraging to see this because, guys, if United get bought by this, and I think they will, for a lot of people, that's going to be a bridge too far.
I hear what you're saying. Sadly, when I think about it, and this is what really ticks me off, Phil Brown and Phil Standish, in the midst of everything, the one that will win is the Glazers at the end of the day. Walking away, they're setting a £6 billion tag on it. The debt will be cleared, and they're walking away with 6 billion profit, right? At the long run, what I'm thinking, whoever comes in takes on the debt and clear the stadium, clear the debt and reset the FFP, invest in the women's team, invest in the youth academy development, and probably, hopefully, the redevelopment of Old Trafford. Because, at the end of the day, when I'm thinking about it, in terms of diversity, I mean, Manchester United is a global fan base, right? No matter, like, I always see, like, I don't see any segregation. I don't see politics and religion fitting into the sport, because at the end of the day, football is for the people, like, no matter where you are in the world, right? So it is twisted, like, but what you're saying that there is no perfect billionaire at the end of the day when you look at it, like,
there's no perfect human being. We're all I don't care if you're a billionaire, a millionaire, or you're 100,000-er. There's no perfect human being. We've all got that, yin yang, a bad side to this. And the more money you get, usually the worse that gets, because it exacerbates your own personality. But anyway, I don't know. It is probably inevitable that this was going to happen.
Yeah. But the good thing is that after 17 years, we've been protesting for this, and this is finally happening. I've been, I'm a third generation United supporter. For me, this is just like, crazy. If you asked me last year, I was so depressed with the down tooling and everything. And what's going on right now, where we are in the league table, where we're going, we are in the 4 cup competitions. Are we challenging for the title? Yes, we are. There's a lot of exciting things to consider. So let's move on for this. I mean, let the processes has its place, but I believe in the manifesto, clear the debt, invest in the infrastructure, clear communication, right? Because what you said before, Glazers has not communicated to the fans for 17 years, and this created the toxic divide between the fan base, right? So hopefully we get some TLC.
Absolutely. Moving on to something much more positive, much more exciting. Man United, I know it's only January, but are they in a title race? Absolutely.
February.
We've been sleeping.
Where did January go? We're nearly in March. Are we in a title race?
Of course, it's City are in a title race. United are in a title race. United are the most informed team in the country. And let me tell you something, that if United can continue this form between now and the end of the season, and remember, Eriksen's still to come back. Eriksen will be back in about 4 to 5 weeks. Sancho is a well-rested player just coming into his form. If they could keep Rashford fit, maybe get some games out of Martial. Casemiro will have benefited from missing 3 games. I know he played against Barcelona, but he'll have a bit of a rest. Sabitzer's come in, who's seamlessly fitted in. He's got cover at centre back. You saw what happened with Lindelof. Maguire's going to get obviously sold at the end of the season. He's got cover at left back. He's got cover at right back. You look at City. Arsenal were very lucky to win at the weekend. I mean, United could easily be sitting. The fact that they're sitting 3 points behind City, they're in a title race.
Absolutely. And what a feeling it feels. It's been so long, and people are saying, "Oh, United aren't in the title race." Of course they're not. It's only February, but at the end of the day, if it was any other club, if it was Liverpool, if it was City, if it was Chelsea, anybody else, of course we're in the title race. They're only like 5 points behind. It's literally 2 games, and we can be top of the league. And I know
that's why we're in a title race. The fact that it's February is why we're in a title race. If we're sitting in May at this point, then we're not in a title race. But because it's February, 24 games, 14 games to go, absolutely.
It's 45. There's 45 points to play for, right?
Yeah.
Arsenal dropped 8 points in 3 games. Arsenal dropped 8 points in 3 games, right? Whenever they lost to Brentford. Yeah. So at City, they were galvanized for 2 weeks because of what happened. Now they're back to normal. They're a very beatable team. So to me, it's not the
Arsenal as well at the weekend. They 90th minute, it was 2-2, wasn't it? 2-2. I mean, fair play, they got the goal, and it was lucky that came off the back of Emilia.
Leon Bailey hit the bar with. Leon Bailey hit the bar with 10 minutes to go. That could have been 3-2. They did the razor thin margins.
And then obviously, they raced down. Fair play, they've got to go for the equaliser, Villa, haven't they? And it was always going to happen. Either they're going to get their goal or Arsenal's going to go and break it. But at the end of the day, they've lost the point, so go for it. You might as well. You did feel sorry for Martinez off his back when you watch that ball just bounce back off him. It's the worst feeling for a goalkeeper. Doesn't cross the line.
Does Arteta look like he's handling it well?
Does
Arteta look like he's handling the pressure well?
No, he does not.
No, he doesn't.
He is not like he's not.
He's losing his shit.
No.
But listen, Phil, if you clip Standish, if you clip this one, what I said after the World Cup, and I said, whoever finds the run of form right now, it's now the season starts, will win the league. And look what's happening. What Erik ten Hag has done from after Christmas to where we stand today is impeccable. If you compare, if it was in the beginning of the season, we would be top of the league right now in terms of the point tally. We still have 45 points to play. Yeah, and as I say,
it's a long way to go. I mean, let's be honest. The question is, are we in the title race right now? Yes, we are right in the title race right now. That's where we are.
5 points behind.
And long may it continue. We've seen it, as we've mentioned, Arsenal's getting a little bit jittery. City's dropped points. Chelsea's just constantly dropping points. I think,
Arsenal City still have to play each other again, lads.
Yeah, I know. And towards the end of the season, they've got a quite difficult run in, haven't they? If I remember rightly.
United, are exceptionally going to Anfield, really have got most of their really hard games out of the way. I know they still have to go to Newcastle, but as we saw at the weekend with Liverpool and Newcastle, that's a very winnable fixture. I think United will win this weekend because I think they'll be quite, not easy, but I think they'll win it comfortably. And honestly, one of the things that Arsenal have is a serious problem in that they've no experience. In the last third of the season, you have no room for error. It's all pressure.
And just to add to that, Phil, so I've just got the fixtures up in front of me now. So Arsenal's fixtures for April starts with Leeds at home. Then they've got Liverpool away, West Ham away, Southampton at home, right? And then after that, they've got City away, Chelsea at home, Newcastle away, Brighton at home, and then they've got Forest and Wolves. So you tell me that United are not in a title race. I don't believe it.
You could see, I don't think they'll lose all those games, but you could see every single one of those teams taking points off Arsenal.
Yeah, every one of them. Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's why I'm like, it's not over yet, and we've got a long way to go. And everyone's got to play big games, but they have got a big run of games to come.
I mean, guys, stop there for a while. I just want to come back to the PTSD. People don't want to say it. Are we in the title race? And people say, speak to me after the Liverpool game. Talk to me then. But why wouldn't we? We are Manchester United. We are now raising our standards, right? If you asked me before Christmas, I would say, nah, man. But what Ten Hag has done up to now, look at us. We are in a cup final, Wembley, right? Carabao Cup. We're still in the FA Cup. We're still racing against Barcelona. Getting 2-2 in Camp Nou, that's difficult, right? Even Xavi came out saying that, this is a totally different, Manchester United is back, right? Pep is saying Manchester United is back. I mean, it is. I feel so goddamn proud of the boys and the team and the club at the moment. So I just don't know. I'm just high on endorphins, to be honest. So why wouldn't we be able to say that we are in a title race? Manchester United is all about winning things. It's the way that I grew up, at least.
Well, if United win the League Cup this weekend, the belief that will be through that squad that they can go on and win other trophies, especially, I think, I remember when United played Arsenal in '99 in the FA Cup semi-final, and it went the extra time. And they asked Ferguson, because United had a major fixture pile up at the time, are you disappointed it went the extra time? And he says, look, our supporters will be talking about this for the rest of their lives. And the momentum that they got from that carried them in the other games. I think if United go out and beat Barcelona, that momentum will carry them into the League Cup final. They'll go in there with enormous belief that they can win that trophy. And if you look at United teams in the past, they lacked the belief that they could be successful. This team does not lack that belief. It's filled with people. It's filled with winners. The heart of the midfield has got a 4-time European Cup winner. The Brazilian international. They've got quality players all over the pitch. Varane right behind them. Another 3 or 4-time European Cup winner. United have that experience in their squad of winning trophies. Like Ten Hag says, finals are to be won. They'll win this weekend. And honestly, I think if United do win against Newcastle this weekend, they'll be a very dangerous team going into the last quarter of the season.
Moving on to the Newcastle game, we had a couple of questions in the comments. So Ayush is saying we can lift a trophy in 6 days. Praying for the team. He says he's asked, does Pope absence have some importance? Absolutely. I mean, when you think we saw what happened at the weekend, Pope got sent off. Dubravka is cup tied, which is just almost like written in the stars, isn't it? You couldn't expect that from anything. Everyone's like, "What? Why Dubravka? Why Dubravka?" And suddenly he's gone back and he can't play against us. You couldn't write it. But I think it's going to be Karius, isn't it? Someone was saying it was Karius, and he's not played for like 3 years or something like
Karius.
that. Yeah, so apparently that's who's being linked Liverpool. To possibly starting. Yeah. So yes, Ayush, thank you for your question. Absolutely, it does appear as though Pope and Pope's arguably been one of Newcastle's best players this season. He's been absolutely fantastic, and we know that with a strong goalkeeper that sorts his defence out, and then that obviously carries on throughout the rest of the field. So, yeah, what difference do you think that'll make to the game, Phil, over the Pope's absence?
When you see rotation in a squad, one of the players almost never gets rotated as a goalkeeper for a reason. Second team goalkeepers, third team goalkeepers almost never play for a reason. If you're third choice goalkeeper and they're recalling Dubravka, they recall them for a reason. That means that they have very little confidence and trust and knows what they're doing. So make no mistake about it. That's an issue. Who would you rather be going into this final? United supporter or Newcastle supporter? I know what I'd rather be.
Always. Yeah.
I mean, guys, if I may say so, if you were spoken to me about Newcastle prior to the World Cup, I would say, yeah, I'm afraid. But going in right now, they haven't been that good, according to my opinion, right? They've been having
United should have beat them at Old Trafford. Rashford missed a great chance at the last minute, and that was a United team that was nowhere near where this team is at right now.
Yeah.
And Newcastle have been wobbling for the last 4 or 5 games. They look like they're run out of steam. And, I have no doubt that once Eddie Howe spends more money in the summer, they'll be back challenging again. But this last third of the season is the hardest part of the season.
The thing also the thing is also they have the experience in playing in the big stage. We played in Camp Nou in front of 90,000 just a few days ago. We came back fresh. Newcastle haven't been in any major competitions, right? And we play in Wembley, right? In neutral ground. The run of form that we're in, we have Rashford is on fire. We have Casemiro back. We have Lisandro Martinez. We have Sabitzer to play there as well. Oh my God, I'm so excited to see Sabitzer playing a little bit higher up, right?
With Casemiro. Casemiro's a bit together. That's something to look forward to.
Yes.
Cannot wait for that. Yes. And the thing is, what Newcastle has had missing, and this is very clear. Like we've had Casemiro missing. Let's be honest, and we've got Sabitzer, who's not Casemiro, but he's been able to fill that role to an extent. What Newcastle's had missing is this Bruno Guimaraes, isn't it? Guimaraes, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. And he's the spine of their team, and he is the one who makes them tick. And he is back for the game.
But he's a big player for them. But you need to come up against better players than Guimaraes last week. I'm not worried about that. He's obviously an important player for them. But I trust Ten Hag has a plan for everything, honestly. And I have United have more weapons in their team than Newcastle.
We have definitely weapons now to throw in. That's the thing. Even Weghorst is a system player, right? The way Weghorst was running around, the other day, just throwing himself in with the long legs, spider tackles. I just felt sorry for him that he still haven't put the ball in the net. It's gonna come. It's gonna come.
It's coming, isn't it? Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
It's coming. I just want to touch base on the mentality issue of it, because this is something my bread and butter, that I'm doing in terms of mental agility and learning and development stuff, in a professional way. Because I spotted something like what Erik Ten Hag is doing. I'm just going to add this to the stream, So the way I've identified Ten Hag's coaching principles is a similar, well-adopted model. When you look at the big five in the learning agility, and I just want to bring this as an educational to the fan base, right? I call it the big five. So it's all about identifying, because each individual has competency traits and drivers. We're born with that, right? What Ten Hag is doing is work on the 5 pillars, which is self-awareness. First, to identify the individual strengths and weaknesses, and then you work on the mental agility, and this is what he's done with the whole team. Like, he has a vision, usually you have the right side of the brain and the left side of the brain. Now Ten Hag is pretty much a visionary, so he's right side of creative. So what he's done is taking his thought process, instilling the whole team by discipline. This is what he said the other day in the press conference: the rules and the principles. And I think this is the learning agility that he drives. Next thing comes to people agility, right? Where he's becoming a very skilled communicator with this team. You see even Rashford, when he came out in the post interview, how he speaks, he's calm, composed, talking, the oozes of confidence, right? And the thing comes with change, which I call change agility, where you're aware of the situation, your competencies, your traits and drivers, the manager's pushing you, giving you a lot of praise, and this is where the results comes in. At the end of the day, you're delivering results week in, week out. You have the right platform, you have the right system, you have the right people believing you, right? What I want to touch base on is the mental agility, in terms of the mental strength. And this is what we've seen Sancho, Rashford, many others, coming back from boot camp, right? So mental agility is the ability to quickly shift between having a laser focus, seeing between the bigger picture. Now, laser focus is kind of to zoom in. And you see Rashford is doing that, right? He sees the bigger picture. He's kind of distance himself from an old lifestyle. It's not about tattoos. He's come back and said, what is more important for me is to be the best player I can be, right? I want to be the number one. But in order to do that, you need to have the mental agility to be able to zoom in, right? To remain in the present, but also look back to when you zoom out, to be in the past, where you can reflect. When you're zooming out, kind of identify small bits and pieces, how you can become better. And this is what Ten Hag is doing with this player. It's clear as day still for me, right? You see players coming out, they know Eric Ten Hag's system. I think he puts an arm on the shoulder. He's disciplinary, but he's also very humble, right? And this, for me, is the most impressive thing. When you do like this, it's all about mental agility. You see Eric Ten Hag is proud as punch, hugging Sancho coming back from. He sent him away from boot camp in Holland. He probably sent them with, to do this mental agility training, to work on himself. It comes down with confidence, at the end of the day. So I just wanted to touch base on this because I discovered it on this interview the other day, and I've been thinking about it. And since I'm working with this on a daily basis as a professional, as a change agent, working with the people and culture, I think this is brilliant. He deals with it.
Sorry, go ahead, man. Sorry, that you're finished there.
Yeah, because he dealt with this, in a delicate way. When press has been asking, there's been so much pressure about, Ronaldos situation, Sancho, getting the questions. But you know what? He's just been sending away, come back. I'm not going to risk you. I'll bring you on when you're ready, right? Even with Garnacho, if you remember, and with the attitude problem. No? Go work on your attitude, come back. So this works in collective and individually. It's so rare to see because, usually it's the player agent that is taking care of the development of its player to advise. But what we see here is something unique. Managers don't manage whole squad. It's a whole squad, not as individuals. But we clearly see evidence that Ten Hag is a man-to-man manager, and he gets his message across.
Look, if you think about Ferguson and you think about what he was good at and what he wasn't good at, he almost was never on the training ground. He wasn't tactically, a genius, but what he was good at was mind games, as we used to say. He was a brilliant mental motivator. He knew how to get inside you. He knew how to get the best out of you. He understood before sports psychologists were even integrated into sports how important the mental aspect of this was, about believing in yourself, about believing in the group, about setting consistency with how you apply discipline so that you get respect. There's a few things that stood out for me for Ten Hag that really separated himself from other managers, that showed he understood how important it was to get the respect of your group first. That was one, doing that run after Brentford. which I think he did that with all the players, which I think was a stroke of genius. Because what that said to the players was, I don't separate myself from failure. I'm not just going to blame you. You know, Rania could come out and take players out in the press without realizing that it was a bit more multidimensional. Not that, you know, there was a club where had no control parameters from the top. The football club was a mess. Now Ten Hag has complete control over everything. Players don't get signed because they're brands. Players don't get signed because of their commercial value. Their football value is prioritized. Players, Wayne Rooney, when he held United to ransom, was kept because his commercial value was worth more to the football club than his sporting value. That is no longer dictating policy at Manchester United. It's now all about the causal relationship between how good you are on the pitch and whether you get to stay. You see them making quick decisions about players. Harry Maguire gets the captaincy. Two games later, he's dropped. Cristiano Ronaldo gets the captaincy. 2 games later, he's doing an interview, slating Ten Hag. Ten Hag's already hung him. Right? He's already won the argument because Ronaldo cannot turn around and say, I wasn't given a chance. No, you were given the captaincy. You were given a chance. You were given all of that. Right? So he's really, really smart mentally and how to motivate players.
100%. I agree.
Rashford pre-Wolves gets dropped for being late to a team meeting, comes on that game, scores, has him flying mentally, right? You know, young Garnacho being subbed on, taken off, next game, bang, he's scoring against Leeds. You know, after he has a bad game against Leeds, gets slaughtered on the media. Think about how mentally tough you have to be as an 18-year-old to come back into a team after being slaughtered on social media. These kids are on social media, and then to go out and score in a really important goal. This is what. So he understands how important it is mentally. Before you can do anybody can get fit physically, anybody, but not anybody can apply mental faculty discipline to make sure you get the other 10% above. That is the difference between winning games and losing games. You know, and we see that on the field. So he's a master.
Everything is about motivation, mental strength. Like, you know, if your mind is not with it, your body will not carry. That's the 100%. Point. I have a theory regarding Marcus Rashford's contract negotiation. I think people are start talking like, you know, sign him up right now. But I think Erik ten Hag is kind of waiting because if he signs him up now, he might face some complacency. Right? So keep him hungry, keep him going, and then come summer we will sit down and talk about Marcus. What do you think about that contract situation? Is that something that needs to be sorted out? Or?
I'll let you go first, Phil.
Yeah, I just think that he doesn't need any distractions off the pitch right now. We saw that with Rashford last year. Exactly, you know, what he did for the community and getting his MBA, that is absolutely amazing, absolutely fantastic, and pure credit to him. But you cannot deny the distractions that created to his football, and nobody knows what Ten Hag said to him. And he's not said, "Don't be a different person. Don't care for people. Don't care for your community." He's just said, "Focus on your football. Focus on your football." He knows that his contract negotiation's safe. He knows that. Let's be honest. The better he plays, the more he's worth. It's simple as that. The more he can fight for. You know, I scored 20 goals last season. You know, I'm not. I didn't only get 4 goals. I'm worth something. So. It's all together. It's all, again, very, very smart management by Ten Hag. Rashford is born and bred United. There's no way now that things are going well and he's wanted and loved by the club, the fans and everybody. And as Phil touched on before, probably one of the best in-form strikers in the world right now, in the world. And bear in mind, and don't forget, he's coming off the left wing most of his games. This isn't a centre forward. And he's outperforming pretty much everybody on the world stage at this moment. And I know, you know, City fans might watch this or they might not and say, you know, Haaland's got more goals and stuff. Absolutely, he's hit the ground running. Not saying what he's not done is amazing, but talking about United and Rashford, his form at the moment is it's exciting. You know,
he's scoring headers.
As a United fan, you just know the ball goes forward, it's going to be on target. It's going to be on target or it's going to be a goal. It's simple as that. He's just not missing anything.
Gents, he's scoring headers. He's scoring tap-ins like a proper centre forward does. And I get one word, Benny McCarthy.
Yeah, that's a big factor too. I honestly feel that Rashford is in the best physical and mental place of his life. And I don't think that's related to his contract. I think that's related to other factors. He's exceptionally well paid as it is. whatever his new contract is, it's not going to make a major material difference to his life. So I don't think if he got a contract now, his form would fall off a cliff. I think that he will continue doing the things that have got him where he is. I think that once you get a taste of happiness, not pleasure, happiness, then it's very difficult to give up. It becomes addictive. And Rashford will not want to slip back. I mean, especially when you have trauma. When you have a comparative experience that's relatively recent between darkness and happiness, you're desperate not to go back to the darkness. And so I don't feel that it would genuinely affect his form. Maybe it would be a bit distracting if he's not getting what he wants. It might, maybe he'll feel offended or whatever. But I honestly feel that where Rashford is at right now, he is legitimately in with the chance of winning Ballon d'Ors, of announcing himself to world football as being one of the superstars. I mean, this is the kid that has set trends in other sports where you've got other athletes copying his celebrations. Going from a kid that was scored 4 goals last season, that was on the periphery, that, social media makes fool out of all of us at times. And you look back in some of the comments about Rashford a year ago, he can leave, and he definitely was interested in doing that. But other managers really rated Rashford. Tuchel loved him. Tuchel wanted to get him to PSG three years ago. Other top managers, Ancelotti, they all loved him. Xavi, they know their football. So it was the environment is right. He's in the right place. He's in the place that he was born and raised in. So I think I think that Rashford is, in my opinion, will not. I mean, if he can keep this form up and continue to do this, then Marcus Rashford will get a contract. He can write his own contract at the end of the season.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely. Listen, I just want to raise a point because mental health is a big. I mean, I've been there myself, and
seeing it.
So it's a once you had it, you will always linger in the back of your mind. Doesn't matter if you're depression or, so it's a serious thing. But the only thing what I learned myself, the only one that can help you is yourself. Is your own mental strength, 100%. Right? You got to find that spark to say, go on, push, do it. So yeah, I'm 100%. I agree, and I can't believe because you're looking back at last season, people were slagging him, sell him, Trashford. I never called him that. I just basically said because I saw his competency traits, drivers. I know that there's a player in him. I always supported him. I support the team, always, and I see the best in them, right? And I know that everyone can have a slump of form. It's normal. It's human, right? We all go through patches, through depression. Whatever, and we judge the player on the pitch, but we don't know what's going on in the social life, right?
I'm tremendous pressure. He's doing so well. I mean, he's a beautiful human being. I'm delighted to see him doing so well.
I've seen him in interviews. He's so humble, right?
A lovely kid, and
lovely.
I maybe one thing I would slightly disagree with Phil on would be I honestly don't think the off the field stuff affected him in the way that I think that what was going on inside the club affected him far, far more. I mean, I was over at United for the Burnley game a year ago, and I was being told things that were going on inside the club that were honestly a disgrace. And I don't know how anyone performed in that environment.
Right.
The infighting with each other, and it wasn't just the playing staff; it was going on all throughout the club. It was that it seeped all the way across into the administrative staff, and it was just a really dark place to be. So honestly, I think it's amazing to see. I mean, these are the things, the intangibles that Ten Hag has got right, that he completely changed. It's hard to change the atmosphere and the environment. Yeah. But everyone adjusts to the environment they find themselves in. If it's negative, you will adjust to become negative. It will drag you down. A new signing comes in, performs well for 3-4 weeks. How many times we see that they start out great and then eventually they fall off a cliff because eventually they adjust to the environment of the group, and that optimism that they bring in the beginning disappears. And so it's really, really important you keep control of that. I think Ten Hag has done such an exceptional job by making sure there's a clear relationship between if you don't play well, you don't play the next game. versus, how many times have you won Harry Maguire drop last season? Not being disrespectful, but there's so many players got game after game after game after game, no matter how they played, there was no consequence for failure. Now you get rewarded for success and there's a consequence for failure.
I think with Ten Hag, I mean, if you remember when he first joined, I mean, the first 3 or 4 days of media was about him walking around Old Trafford through the canteen with the players, with the cleaners, with the cooks, with the chefs, with admin staff, everybody. He was meeting and greeting everybody one by one as they're eating the lunch, and the camera was just like,
I remember that,
catching Ten Hag, catching people by surprise, like, hello, you all right? And he, apparently he spoke. There were some people who worked there who said on social media at the time he's literally gone round and said hello to everybody, and showing that this is a club, we are in this together. And it's those sort of moments as you join a club that can just transform everything and make everybody go, whoa, something's different here. Something is different. And he got off to such a good start, and everyone was behind him from the off. So we are running out of time. Sorry, I'm just aware that it's what.
I just want to add something. I saw him in Bangkok.
Go for it.
I saw him in Bangkok when they were on tour. And I saw him, and he looked like Hector Salamanca for Breaking Bad. Walter White. I was like, I want to mess with this guy. And I saw the punishment he was in. They were doing, like in training, they were doing push-ups, and I was like, this guy is on right track, right? He's a disciplinary, right? I don't want to mess with him. Anyway,
my father-in-law's from Amsterdam, and let me tell you something. The Dutch have a real way of words. If they want to tell you something, they don't mince their words. They're very, very direct, and they're very confident, and they're organized to a T.
You want to play, huh? Go play and make push-ups.
Speaking of playing, very quickly before we finish, let's do this as quick as we can because we are running over at the moment.
Shall we do this?
So, very quickly. Strongest of it. Are you okay for a few more minutes, Phil?
Go ahead, mate.
Yeah.
Let me run this. Starting 11 combined.
Barcelona.
Yay! So, let's have this interaction. This is the fun part of it. Listen, this is a new thing that we started, Phil and Phil.
Yeah, we're here, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, Mick's froze. Fantastic. Right, while Mick's froze, I'll bring up a couple of comments that we've had. So, I usually been saying Barca will not be easy, mark my words, because the La Liga players the best Spanish drama actors. I've not seen that much from the recent Barcelona side under Xavi. We see it a lot from Atletico Madrid and that. Do you think you see much in that from the recent Barca side under Xavi?
In terms of play acting and stuff?
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think that every league has different cultures. And the English league is very physical, it's very intense. And
I'm back.
Culture of English fans is different. They like a tackle. I live in LA and I see a lot of different football cultures, Hispanic football culture, and it is different, and they don't like the physical aspect, and they find that, they're very tough boys, don't get me wrong. They're much more tactical and much more intricate. And so when you start planning the tackles, they're a bit surprised, where we're a little different. So I think it's just the clash of styles. They're also very intelligent. They know how to get players booked. They want players booked. They want players to get suspended. So I'm not judging it. I'm just saying it's different. So I saw a bit of that in the first leg, but
it's not too bad, is it? Okay.
I saw Sergio Roberto asking for yellow cards and all that.
Well, we see Bruno Fernandes doing it in most games, don't we?
Yeah. I've seen players in the Premier League do it too.
Yeah.
Listen,
now you're back. What, mate? Live lineup.
Okay, live lineup. Okay, I have a little bit of problems with internet, I feel, right now, being on a mobile broadband in Thailand. Guys, this was the lineup we started up at Camp Nou, basically. We had Malacia, Shaw, Varane, Wan-Bissaka. Midfield, we had Sabitzer, Fred, and we had Fernandes. On the right-hand side, we had Sancho, Rashford, and Weghorst on the top. Now, what we want to do...
Wasn't he suspended?
Yeah, it's a bit wasn't there, mate. This is the you've mixed up with your Leicester lineup. So we had. Go on, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm back again. I'm lost.
if I was going to pick the lineup for Thursday, I think it'll be De Gea, Shaw at left back, Varane, Martinez. Martinez is back at the centre back. I thought it was interesting that he left Varane out last against Leicester. If you go back even to the game prior to the new camp, but against Leeds, he played Maguire at centre back. Rested Varane that game too. I think Varane will come in for this game. I think the midfield will be Casemiro, Sabitzer, and Fred. I think Fernandes, Rashford, and Sancho will be the front three.
Oh, really? You think he'll drop Weghorst?
I think the only question mark about is whether he doesn't play Fred for Weghorst. But I think once you need to get closer to the strongest starting 11, is that if you look at Rashford's 2 goals against Leeds, they came when he was immediately moved down the middle. Right? And Weghorst played down the middle against Leeds, was taken off in those games. As soon as he moved Rashford down the middle, United scored. I think Barcelona are really worried about Rashford's pace and behind down the channel, so it's possibly may move him out wide. But my only question mark is whether Fred or Weghorst starts. But I don't think if United have the strongest 11, Weghorst starts.
I don't think. Yeah, I mean, we saw patterns of play that you might have a Sancho as number 10 and Fernandes on the right wing.
The front three is so interchangeable though, because they play in those half spaces. So I even saw that the weekend Rashford would start down the middle, then you'd see him on the left, and you'd see him on the right. And so they were changing it around a lot. And Sancho then down the middle, out wide. Fernandes, then Weghorst dropping back, then Weghorst going back up top. So that front four, if you like, is very interchangeable.
Standish.
Yeah, you need to change Malacia for Martinez. Completely agree with that. That's definitely going to happen. I think one of the questions in the back four will be whether he starts with Wan-Bissaka or Dalot. He obviously played Dalot. Dalot's getting forward. He's getting his moments, but at the back he's not quite as sharp. So what we're going to see from him, that's the one that always catches us out when we're trying to choose our starting 11. I think for myself, we will see Casemiro and Sabitzer to start. I think he's probably a little bit excited by that himself. I think Fred, as when you look at just the 2 Leeds games alone, he had worst game of the season and then his best game of the season within the space of 3 days in the exact same position against the exact same team, and that's the weakness with Fred. And I don't think he can take a chance of a weakness against Barcelona where it's all to play for, sort of thing. So for myself, I would be swapping Fred for Casemiro. And I just think he likes Weghorst. When you look at all his interviews and stuff afterwards, he likes what he does, because even though Weghorst isn't getting the goals, he's making the movements, he's getting the flick-ons, he's holding the play up, he's allowing Rashford and Sancho now to run in behind, or Garnacho. And when you look at the patterns that Ten Hag's been doing with starting Garnacho, starting Sancho, I think we'll see Sancho start over Garnacho. I think we'll see Weghorst up front. I think you need to change Fred for Casemiro, mate.
Yeah, I will do that.
Yeah, and then top middle. That's it. Up, left, right, down. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. Back in.
Yeah, so that those 11 will be my starting 11, based on what we've seen, based on who we've seen rested, based on who we've got available, whether he starts. And possibly in that sort of starting position, but as Phil's already said, the front three, the front four even will certainly move around a lot. You might see Rashford up front, Sancho on the left, Fernandes over to the right. You'll see all those different movements. But it'll be interesting. We've got to win it. It's not an option. We don't want to see it going to extra time, especially the cup final a few days later. I'm feeling confident after the way we performed against them last week. I suppose the only difference is Barcelona probably weren't expecting it, so they'll come a little bit with a different mentality, I think. But I think we'll get through. I think we'll get the results at home. I think Ten Hag's already been asking the crowd to you get here and support us, sort of thing. You be our 12th man.
Plan, yeah.
He was lifting the crowd, and I think he'll walk into the stadium on Thursday night and be like that straight away to the crowd, lifting them, getting them going. Absolutely, he'll be telling the players to get the fans going and everything. And I don't, on Champions League, Europa night, Europe nights in Old Trafford, it'd be absolute bouncing against Barcelona, and the world will be turned up to watch it.
Okay, so should we compromise then in the back four? What we have right now: Shaw, Martinez, Varane, Wan-Bissaka. I think, or do you think it will be Dalot to start, or will it stick to Wan-Bissaka?
I think he'll go with Wan-Bissaka first because I think he worries about Barcelona away, especially with Rafinha, and I think Dembele's back too. So I think he was. Dalot would probably be someone who maybe need a goal. They'll bring him on.
And they don't have Pedri. They don't have Pedri and Gavi. They're gone.
Yeah.
So that midfield battle will be very, very good with Sabitzer and Casemiro and Fernandes. We agree with Sancho, Weghorst, and Rashford, right?
Phil said possibly Weghorst for Fred, but obviously in a different position. So you'd have to put Rashford further forward and move Sancho to the left and Bruno to the right, and then Fred would just be in the sort of number 10 position, I guess.
Or maybe Weghorst would be 10 and Rashford like this.
Yeah, move everybody around, can't we? Yeah.
Yeah, this is interchangeable. But anyway, the personnel is what we agreed on, right?
Yeah, just before we finish, so we've obviously got a comment from Ayush. His starting 11. He said, "My 11: Rashi, Weghorst, Sancho, Bruno, Sabitzer, Casemiro, Shaw, Martinez, Varane, and Wan-Bissaka." And he just said one last thing. ETH, when he faces a manager second time, his plan always kills the opponent. He's almost unbeatable. Absolutely, right. What a fantastic way. A nice little comment. I suppose the last question we should ask before we finish is, what score do you think it'll be?
I do this. I go with the guess first.
Yeah, go for a film.
I'm going to say 2-0 United.
Oh, nice. Love that. That would feel really good. Going ahead, going up to against Newcastle. Do you think we'll keep it clean sheet at the back then?
I was going to say 2-1 because maybe I'll see Lewandowski making one, but I think United will win the game. Maybe either 2-0 or 2-1. I think Barcelona would be devastated to lose this game.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Mick? What's your score prediction?
I'm not gonna do a huge share, but considering the Gavi Pedri is not playing, considering that we're playing at Old Trafford, Ten Hag and the crowd, 12 player, Martinez is back in the back. We're pocketed with Varane. We didn't, 3-0 United.
3. Wow, confident. Okay.
Patriots.
I mean, I love it, but I think I'm going to have to agree with Phil. I'm going to have to go with 2-0 myself. I think we'll get the win, possibly 2-1. But I think if we go out with too much confidence, then it's going to go against us. It'll backfire. No. I think at the end of the day, they're going to come racing out the traps.
Can I change?
No, too late. It's gone. Yeah, go on. Last chance.
Last chance saloon. 3-1 United. I think we'll concede one. 3-1.
Ayush is saying 4-0, which is that.
There we go.
Phil, you've probably not met Ayush. You normally goes with 9-0, so he's not feeling as confident today. So he's, but yeah, no, I think obviously appreciate you joining us tonight, Phil.
Thank you, lads.
This afternoon, it's been fantastic having you on the show. Really appreciate it.
Sorry
we ran over. There's so much to talk over. But thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, boys. Enjoy the rest of your trip. Good night. Take care, boys. See you. Bye.
Bye.
See him. It's brilliant to have Phil Brown's opinions. You can find him in the description, in the link there as well. You can follow me on Twitter. We forgot to ask him. Of course, you can find my
Malachins.
Yeah. But if you go on the description and the thumbnail description, you will see his Twitter socials thing, right? Personally, also, you can find me as well in the description below. Phil, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, on TikTok, on YouTube, all to do with our football philosophy, as is being pointed out down there, wherever it appears when the video goes back. But yeah, please give us a follow, give us a shout. I'd love to interact with you all. But yeah, it's been great. It's been a long show. But thank you for anybody who did manage to join us and for your live questions. Really appreciate it. It's the live questions that make the show better. But thank you for your time.
That's it. We see you, we hear you, we feel you. We are a global fan base and we're building community. Just looking ahead, we have a fantastic week of football. We have the takeover to look forward to. We have Cup final. We have Wembley. We have Thursday, Europa night. It feels good to be a United fan. And that's what we're all about here for. No matter if you're big or small, you want to come on the show, drop us a DM on Twitter. And this is Mick Ruby. Next is my co-captain, Phil Standish. Guys, like and subscribe to this video and support the team, because that's what we do here. Thank you so much for coming by. Phil, have a lovely evening. Speak to you soon.
Yeah, good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. See you. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching Mufc Realist TV. Don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on the socials.